You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com. And now, it's time for the show that breaks down the options market from unusual activity alerts to market analysis, strategy overviews, listener questions, and much more. If it involves puts and calls, then our all-star panel will break it down. It's time to hit the Option Block with your host, Mark Longo from the Options Insider Media Group, and co-hosts, Uncle Mike Tusaw from St. Charles Wealth Management, along with Mark the Greasy Meatball Sebastian and Andrew the Rock Lobster Giovinazzi from OptionPit.com. The Option Block is brought to you by TradeStation. TradeStation has been giving options traders an edge for over 20 years. Their suite of simple yet powerful analysis tools and lightning-fast order execution can be accessed as an app on your phone, web browser, or computer. Education is in TradeStation's DNA, offering help for traders of all levels. And now, TradeStation is commission-free for equities and options trades. For more information, visit tradestation.com/optionsinsider. And now, get ready to hit the Option Block.
All right, everybody. That rockin' bit of tunage means it is time to rock out once again with everyone's favorite. I hope it's your favorite. If not, let us know. What is your favorite? I don't think there are any other bi-weekly sources for all things options related. My name is Mark Longo from theoptionsinsider.com, as well as, of course, from the ever-exciting The Options Insider Radio Network. You guys know the drill by now. Wherever you listen to this, if you like what you hear, make sure you leave a review, comment, something along those lines, so other folks can continue to discover this network in these trying times out there. And, of course, keep those questions, those comments coming. Don't leave them on the review platforms because they're not the most timely of ways to get in contact with us. If you want to do that, of course, you can hit us up via the old usual suspects, the email, the social medias. If you want to join us live, that's even the fastest way to do it. So no shortage of ways to get a hold of us. Just leave the platforms for the reviews and all that good stuff. And joining me on the old program today, looks like Uncle Mike out on assignment yet again. Hopefully he's not going too far in this era of social distancing, but he should be back with us again on Thursday. In the meantime, though, we are joined by the greasiest of meatballs, the Costco shopper extraordinaire. Yes, I'm talking about Mr. Mark Sebastian from OptionPit.com by way of Carmen Line Capital. Mr. Meatball, welcome back to the program. How go things in your quarantine palooza, sir?
It's a beautiful day here in Chicago, Illinois. Enjoying my time in one of the 10 towns that changed America while I still can before I head to where the stars are bright at night, deep in the heart of Texas.
Yes. Excellent time to be doing real estate transactions these days as we keep on heading right on into the trading block.
It's time to break down the latest topics, trades, and trends in the world of options. It's time for the Trading Block.
All right, everybody, welcome to the Trading Block, the portion of the show we break down what is trading, and we're kicking off the week here yet again. Got a little bit of green on the old screen to get things started this week. It looks like things are pretty firmly in the upside territory. Pretty much every major index over 1%. We got the S&P actually leading the charge. A rare day where the S&P is driving the ship up about 1.33%. The Dow and the Nasdaq both up about 1.15% or so. So not too far behind. The S&P can see them in the rearview mirror, but a little bit behind out there. We got gold and crude taking a break out there today. Crude taking a big break. Get to that more later on, of course. On TWIFO later this week. Maybe talk about it a little bit on today. You guys have your thoughts on USO that you shared with us. We'll get to those a little bit later in the mail block. And, of course, our old friend VIX relaxing, an aggressive relaxation, shall we say, right around the 33 handle. That puts it down almost 7 handles from where it was this time last show. So that's a pretty big drop. We were talking on VolViews on Friday about how it seemed like that aggressive, super aggressive backwardation out there in the VIX futures starting to relax somewhat. In fact, as we were going into VolViews on Friday, we saw the cash actually dipping below the future for the first time in a little while out there. Remember, not too long ago, listeners, it was more than 16 handles above it. So perhaps a shade of normalcy returning out there, and seeing that reflected in the VIX cash numbers out there as well. Of course, the index is not moving the way they used to, so that also plays a bit of a role out there. Our old friend, the VVIX, pretty close to where it was this time last week. This 1% pop helping a little bit here, up to about 119.5, up about almost 2 points from where it was last week, but kind of pretty close to in line from last Thursday's show. And our old friend, the VXX, that likes itself a little bit of backwardation in the VIX futures, and that starts easing up. VXX easing up a little bit as well, down 5 handles, down to about a 38 from where it was this time last show. So a lot to unpack there. Let's go out back to the greasiest of meatballs while he's getting himself fitted for 10-gallon hats and spurs and chaps. Mr. Meatball, sir, what is lighting up your tape? What are your crazies up to out there in the world of the pit chat these days, sir?
I mean, there is so much going on, guys. We're looking at oil. The only thing that it's kind of annoying about like oil trading right now is that USO is going to reverse split tomorrow. I wish oil wasn't doing that, because that vol is really juicy and meaty, getting punched in the face. We're talking a lot about that concentration of equity weighting in the 5, right? We're going to start calling them the 5, right? Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, and Google, with a little bit of Facebook. Facebook is kind of like the junior partner in the group.
I'm down with that. You gonna make hats for that one too?
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. You know what we could do for all, for people that are Trump supporters, we could have the Microsoft, Apple, Google, Amazon hat, and then for people that don't like Trump, we have the Facebook, Microsoft, Apple, Google, Amazon hat. So it's either your MAGA or your F-MAGA.
There you go. Put that up on your website. One could be red, one could be blue. Pick your hat. Pick your camp. I like it. Pre-orders available now. Optionpit.com.
And then, the big news is that we've now seen even further. We briefly saw the actual curve go into a contango. The cash index is now trading below May and June, and May and June are about as flat as pancakes, flat. So there is a giant volatility move going on, and all my indicators have kind of flipped green for the S&P, which means, who knows? But I'm a little surprised at the price action. But everything I look at, believe it or not, is saying, the S&P might go higher from here, not lower. And you want to go short vol. I am and we've talked about this at on the pit chat. We continue to be big, we continue to really like longer dated out of the money puts. You can still get almost $70 for the SPX January 2021 2,000 put. That is, if you're saying, it didn't sound, take a look at what that was worth in January, and you tell me that doesn't look like an interesting sale to you. So there's still a lot of value. There's still a lot of short vol value. Yes, BV, as we might say.
Have you taken any of those short puts off the table? Or are you still rolling with some of them?
I took a little bit of it, but I really liked. I still, some of the ones. One of the things that when you're trading, when we had that big vol pop in oil, I sold more puts. And now that we've come back, I took some money off the table. And I'm hoping we get another vol pop so I can sell more back. But I'm leaving enough on that if we don't, that I'm a happy camper. And that's the way, I think we have to approach this. Trade, carry position like we may never come back, but trade like we will.
Indeed. Let's see what is trading out there today. Like I said, coming into showtime here, we're seeing decent paper actually out there. Of course, that's all depending on your frame of reference, because the frame of reference, particularly in VIX land, has come in fairly aggressively, well over 1 million contracts per day from its height out there. The ADV right now is 351,000. That's north of 1 million off, probably like 1.2 or so million off of what we were seeing out there in the height of the frenzy, well over 1 million contracts a day. We're slinging out there in VIX land. And right now, as of a few minutes ago, 350,000. So we're pretty much at that ADV today. So this little bit of a return of contango, a little bit of rally, a little bit of coming in on vol, all that contributing to a fair amount of paper out there in VIX options land. SPY, not so much. SPY, the ADV is a little bit north of 5 million right now, about 5.25 million, and closing in on 2.5 million contracts as of a few minutes ago, about 2.3 out there. So SPY, decent paper, but not exactly at the ADV. Of course, its ADV has not come in as precipitously as VIX as well. So VIX moving the goalposts a little bit there as well. SPX at about 640,000 contracts as of a few minutes ago. The ADV about almost 2x that, about 1.2 million out there. So that obviously ADV has come in substantially as well. That was north of 2 million not too long ago. The Qs, 500,000. So the Qs looking pretty active out there today. The ADV nearly 700K, about 685,000 out there. And the IWM at about 446,000 contracts coming into a few minutes ago. The ADV 625. So we all know Russell has been moving and shaking and leading the dance quite a bit out there. We start putting Russell in our breakdown there at the top of the show. If you like your Russell breakdown, stay tuned for TWIFO on Thursdays, listeners. You get a good dose of it there. And it has been active. It has been meriting that close look out there these days. Breaking out into the top 10 out there in terms of individual equity names. What is lighting it up out there? Well, we got some interesting names. Doesn't cost you a lot right now to break into the top 10. It only cost you 123,000 contracts. That gets you to a newcomer here in the top 10. This is Nordic American Tanker Limited, ticker symbol NAT. NAT, trading about $7 right now, listeners, up about $1.20 or about exactly 20%. As we all know, tankers have been all the rage these days as folks are clamoring for ways to store and ship their crude out there. And Nordic American Tanker, NAT, feeling the love out there. Let's look really quickly and see what they were up to a year ago. A year ago, they were trading $2.15. So it's been a good little run here for NAT. In fact, as of mid-March, late March or so, March 20th, they were $2.46. So this thing has seen almost a 3x rally since then. So talk about V-shaped when it comes to this name. Yeah, the negative crude has been a bit of a boon out here for this one. So that's NAT number 10, 123,000 contracts. Number 9, your old friend Tilray. I haven't seen them out in a while there. Number 9, 129,000 contracts. Number 8, we're going beyond, out to Beyond Meat, 139,000 contracts. Looks like some faux meat getting everybody's headlines and knickers in the twist out there today. What are they up to today? Oh, off 8 handles, or about 7.5% out there. Let's see. Did they have... it is earnings week. We'll get to who is popping off in a little bit. But obviously, folks not liking what they're seeing there out there. So, yeah, about $100 even, 100.5 or so out there for Beyond Meat. You think faux meat would be all the rage when real meat's getting harder to come by, but apparently not today, at least. Number 7, our friends across the street there, Boeing at $1.59 out there. No, usually Boeing and Bank of America are neck and neck because their tickers are so identical, but apparently not today. Number 6, Facebook, 172,000. The F in the F MAGA out there. Number 5, Microsoft, 195,000 contracts. Number 4, AMD, 218. Numero trace there. There's our other friend there. Bank of America moving on up all the way up to number 3, 221,000 contracts. Number 2, the fruit company, not even 250,000, 244,000 contracts. That means you know what number 1 is. If it's not Apple, then it's got to be the old Teslas out there. 261,000 contracts on the tape. Let's go on out to see what's going on there. Oh, it sounds like Beyond Meat was downgraded out there. So, yeah, good old analyst love, or lack of love, I should say, out there, causing that. So they say the stocks rallied, but restaurants are closed, and there's a lot of competition out there. We've had Garden Inn, whatever they're called, recently out here during this lockdown. Those are pretty good meat alternatives as well. So there's a lot of different variants and varieties out there in the meatless meat realm. So maybe a lot of that weighing in on Beyond Meat. Obviously, the market buying what this analyst is selling, taking the stock down nearly 8%. Oh, a rare sell rating. You don't see those too often from neutral over there on UBS. Interesting, because you think demand would make up for that. Even though the restaurants are closed. Maybe that was the big driver for meat, or I should say demand for Beyond Meat, was restaurants and not home grocers. Either way, interesting stuff. Beyond Meat taking it on the chin. Let's see what else is poised to perhaps take it on the chin this week, or perhaps rally pretty hard. It is one of, if not the busiest weeks of the earnings season, listeners. So if you're going to pay attention to earnings, this is the week. Even if you don't pay attention to earnings, you still should pay attention this week. If you want the full reports, theoptionsinsider.com is the place to go. Click on that options, news, and articles tab. Look for the earnings move results, and the earnings season analysis. It's all up there for you. Let's break it down. Who's kicking off this week? Let's see. AMAT is today after the bell. Then we've got tomorrow Southwest Airlines, a.k.a. Love. We've got Alphabet, the name formerly known as Google. We've got Starbucks, Merck, and Pfizer tomorrow, Wednesday. Boeing, our friends across the street there, GE. Blue Apron. We actually have been rocking a little bit of Blue Apron on this quarantine. Pretty interesting, pretty good, pretty laborious. Get ready for a good hour's worth of cooking time and chopping and prepping and everything else. But if you like that, if you want to feel like a chef at the end of all of that and making some pretty exotic creations, Blue Apron, an interesting one out there. Tesla also on Wednesday. Good old Softy, they've been rocking it, knocking it out of the park of late. We'll see how those numbers looking. Probably pretty good. Facebook and eBay and Qualcomm on Wednesday. Thursday, we got American Airlines. Got the old Twitters. We got Mickey D's. Got Six Flags. That'll be an interesting one to see how the amusement park industry taking it on the chin. Six Flags supposed to open pretty much now, I would think, around the country. And obviously that's not happening. So we'll hear more about that. Good old Apple as well, and United Airlines. And Friday we got ExxonMobil, Chevron, Honeywell, and everyone's favorite, Phillips 66. So a lot of big names popping off out there. Again, check out the website for the earnings move and earnings move results reports. We got a lot of them going up through last week, so we'll have the new ones hitting the site as we speak. Mr. Meatball, I know your pit chatties, your mentees, they like to sling themselves some vol, probably looking at a little crude oil. But this week is also a big earnings season week. Are there any individual names that have been getting bandied about in the chat room as either attractive or perhaps not so attractive, sir?
I mean, I think everybody is talking the MAGA / FMAGA names. It's been such a news story. I mean, it was. I think I saw. If you go out, I think I saw 12 research pieces on how 5 stocks have really been the entire S&P rally, right? You name the research firm, they put out a note, saying, oh, well, if you take out the FMAGA, then you don't have a rally. And so those have been really where we've been paying attention. I think a lot of people are looking for some opportunity here to start getting in. They want to hear what has to be said. I do see a wealth of opportunity. We've talked about this a couple of times. I was talking to a client about this just now about, how to play the 5-4.95 spread. There used to be a spread called the 1-5, which was the OEX 100 versus the S&P 500 that they would trade in the old OEX pit. I don't know if you remember that, Mark. That may predate you.
I do. I never traded it because I never went out in the OEX, but when I was in the S, it was still trading because the OEX was still pretty active. But yeah, you don't hear it much anymore.
Yeah, the old 1-5 trade. because what happened was guys would hedge off all their OEX delta with S&P futures because there were no OEX futures, and then there would be a combo swap you would do to take the position off, and that was called the 1-5. Well, now you would do I think there's a trade developing called the 5-500, and that's trading FMAGA versus SPX, and that is a trade.
I like it. The new version of the 1-5 is your FMAGA. FMAGA light.
Well, I guess you'd be the FMAGA, and then it'd be the SPX, so it'd be the FMAGAs of the FMAGA spread. I don't know. That one's a little doesn't come off the tongue.
Doesn't roll off the tongue as nicely, the FMAGA spread. But yeah, look it up, listeners, if you're so inclined. The old days. I've talked about the 1-5 a few times here on the show. Whenever I get an old school OEX guy on, I always tease him about the 1-5. But yeah, it's not a one you hear too often anymore. Not a lot of folks need to adjust their S&P 100 versus S&P 500. When's the last time, Mark, anyone ever asked you about the S&P 100?
I mean, it has been years. There's still a guy in there. There's a guy. But there's one guy. Yeah, the crazy thing is, so what people don't realize is that the OEX was bigger than the S&P 500 and the VIX combined back in its day. Maybe not in terms of relative volume, right? I mean, the option volume as a whole was a lot lighter, right? But the amount of volume the OEX did relative to the balance of the market was astronomical, and it was unbelievable. And now, let me tell you what let me pull up my stats here. On the day, the total open interest of the OEX is 9,780. The average volume is 1,000. Unbelievable.
Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Yeah, listeners, OEX was the pit. Not too long before I started out in the S, that was the place you were. And then the S, as you might imagine, S&P 500 is the benchmark, is the bellwether, is the thing everyone started watching. It just shows you how big the OEX was. That's where the VIX started. It was on the O. And then they moved it over to the S as the S started taking prominence. And no one really looked back except for apparently that one guy who's still out there. I gotta find who that guy is. I gotta find the one OEX guy and bring him on. He is quite literally the last of the Mohegans. As we keep on rolling into our next segment, it is time to go around the block.
It's time to break down the most interesting, unusual, and downright questionable options activity that's been identified by theoptionsinsider.com. It's time for the Odd Block.
All right, I can see you freaking out in the live listeners. Don't worry, the show's not over. I'm just hyped up on coffee. I'm getting ahead of myself. Of course, it's time for the Odd Block, the portion of the show where we break down some weird, some wild, some wonderful stuff. We let the Eye of Sauron run free throughout the markets and see what it brings back to us today. And let's see what it's got. Oh, it's got the return of an old favorite today. Too bad the Rocklop's not here. This was one of his favorites back in the day. We used to tease him quite mercilessly about this one. Yes, it's Zynga. Haven't talked about them. They were kind of infamous for a while. They were held up as the poster child for better or for worse out there for all these mobile game developers. I believe they made Candy Crush and a bunch of others. And then they've acquired a bunch of other names out there, maybe somewhat infamous for their business practices out there as well. This one was a high flyer not too long ago. Oh, how the flying has somewhat mitigated out here. Let's go all the way back. Yeah, let's go back to the crazy days of the height of Zynga. That was back in 2012. That's when this name was threatening a 15 handle, listeners. That's when mobile gaming was hot. Everything was on fire. Everyone had to have a piece of the Zynga action. And then looking at this one, listeners, you get to see it just fell off a cliff. In March, it was about $15 of 2012. By August of that year, it was down to sub $3. So the Zynga apocalypse Came fast, it came hard, it came heavy. And then it kind of languished there for a while, and then back and looks like it hit $5 again even back in right around Valentine's Day of 2014. Then it pretty much sold off again and has languished in this $2 and change bucket till about, looks like the end of 2018 when it started rallying, hit the $3 range. It started rallying up by beginning of 2019. It was about $6. And now move ahead to where we find ourselves this year. Well, a year ago, it was about $5.50. That sold off a little bit again. And then it started doing this little upward dance again. This looks like a little bit of a biotech stock here. There's a lot of peaks and troughs along the way. But it got up to $6 and change earlier in July, and then it kind of sold off again, then back up and back down. Now we're on the upward swing yet again. It hit $7.50 in April, then sold off again down to about close to $7, and then right back up to where it is right now, $7.76, up nearly 2% out there. So a little bit of upward movement here for Zynga. I guess, in all this quarantine time, folks got to get their mobile gaming on, and apparently that's been driving this name. This owns quite a few. They own Small Giant Games, OMG Pop, they probably make a bunch of the names that are gobbling up and gobbling up space there on your phone and on your tablets out there. Let's see what our Eye of Sauron found out here in this old school odd block name here. Let's see. Oh, that's interesting. So pretty much at the money calls here, they're the May 7 halves going up 10,342 times, Mr. Meatball, and it looks like someone had to have them, and they had to have them pretty aggressively because these things are 57 cents at 62. Only 12 offered though for 62 cents. I love the displayed size we're seeing out there, and I put love in quotes because not so much, listeners. I know it makes it hard for everybody out there. This guy had to go all the way up to see the liquidity is disguised, but it isn't disguised too badly. There's that 12 lot sitting in front of this 10,000 lot, because then 10,342 were done. They got done 2 cents worse at 64 cents. So this guy had to go through that 12 lot. He said, okay, I'll take the 12. What else you got at 62? Okay, no more? 63, what do you got? Okay, none. Okay, I'll take the balance at 64 cents for 10,342. Obviously, this is opening over there on the Gemini. Worth noting, this is a bit of an earnings swing for the fences here because they got earnings coming up pretty soon on May 6th. So this guy is thinking this rocking and rolling is going to continue. So far, he's looking pretty good. These are pretty healthily in the money now, about 26 cents or so. So got a little bit of juice on the old bone. Mr. Meatball, let's kick it off. Kind of an old school odd block at the money call, swing for the fences in earnings season. This kind of warms the old cockles. This is kind of like bringing back the old school odd block paper. What do you make this guy loading up at the bat here for Zynga, Mr. Meatball?
I mean, that's all right. Go for it, dude. Let's see what happens. They do have earnings coming up, and it doesn't not make sense, I suppose. And maybe we don't know that they've got a really cool game coming out or something like that. Maybe they signed, we all remember Glue. You remember Glue? They had the Kim Kardashian game. Maybe Zynga is coming out with the new Jay Cutler, Kristen Cavallari divorce game.
Look at you up on your little bit of gossip.
Oh, you kidding me? Lauren is like despondent about that.
It bridges both worlds, the sporting world.
Well, it just proves yet again that there's a reason why nobody likes that guy.
Yeah, he didn't exactly leave a lot of fans behind him here in Chicago.
No, and everybody loves that has met Kristen Cavallari, loves Kristen Cavallari. I mean it. So, just saying.
I'm speaking for myself. I love her. I met her several times. No,
have you really?
I have not.
Lauren says she's like the wonderful. So
I know Jay Cutler. I know far less about her, but I have heard through various circles that this is the talk of the gossip town. Doesn't surprise me that because she hasn't been on a Real Housewives. I don't think so. I don't know if that falls under your wife's purview out there, but maybe she's expanding the empire. Speaking of expanding, let's see where we can expand our Eye of Sauron to. Let's go out. This is an old favorite here on the Eye of Sauron. It hasn't been around in a little bit. Maybe let's see if we can change it up. This is Bed Bath & Beyond. They of the used to be used to be coupons in your mail every week. Oh, 20% off every week. When people come to expect it, I don't know if that's really a great sale. I think they've even said they're dialing that back. Of course, now these days when people are afraid to touch their mail, probably more so, let alone go into the stores, probably a good time to curtail that promotion. But good old Bed Bath & Beyond, ticker symbol BBBY, triple BY, out there trading about $6.50. Good run for them, up 24% today, up. Wow. I guess, online sales jump 85%. Folks are liking themselves. So who figured? A pandemic? Folks have to stock up their bed and their bath and their beyond. So they're going the BBBY regardless of whether or not they have a 20% off coupon out there. So this stock feeling the love out there today. Wow, impressive. $6.50. I'm going to go out on a limb before I even look at our paper, listeners, and guess it's probably call paper we're going to be talking about. Just guessing. I've done this once or twice. Oh, and I am correct. They are the May doubles, the May 5 halves. Whoa, that's not the strike I expected. The May, these are expiring on the 1st. So these are April Fool's plus a month day calls out here. 5.5 strike. So these are pretty much $1 in the money calls. Looks like our friend got ourselves a little bit of a scoop. He got in early ahead of this move. He gobbled these 5 halves up for 55 cents. You can just do the math right now, listeners. The stock's at $6.50 even. These are worth some money. Let's see. These were opening over there on the box. I don't see a lot of box prints out there. They were 52 cents at 54. This guy said, I'll take all 11 you have offered at 54. How many can I get at 55? 2019, done. I will take those. And there are earnings coming up next time on the 8th out there. So not going to be earnings in this cycle because I'm guessing we got some of that going on in this blush here right now. But yeah, folks liking this name and gobbling up some calls here to the tune of the 5 half strike. So these are weeklies. These are going out pretty soon. So I got a feeling our friend ain't going to be holding these for long. He got in while the getting was good. And I'll have to go see. Maybe while you're looking at this, Mr. Meatball, I will pull it up and see if any more of these are trading because our friend maybe got out of them already, looking pretty good. But what do you think about our friend here getting in while the getting was good on these May double calls that are already pretty well in the money now, Mr. Meatball, in Bed Bath & Beyond?
You know, I love that we call them the doubles when they're 5.5.
Yeah, it's kind of fun, isn't it? It's kind of fun, isn't it?
It is. I am seeing Bed Bath & Beyond has a ton of volume today. So there's 18,000 on the $5 strike, 5,500 on the doubles, as you would say, and another 5,700 on the sixes. So, with all of that, there is just a ton going on in this name. And, I'm hoping the smart money is selling this because was there a story about them getting financing? Because I still think they're going the way of the dodo. I could be wrong. But
their sales are up. So people are buying what they're selling, quite literally.
Yeah, so who knows? But yeah, it's really, really interesting. Crazy volume in May on this one.
Yeah, I'm putting this guy in the to-be-watched category. We're going to come back to these guys. I got a feeling this guy gobbled these up, and he's already out of Dodge. I would hope, at least, because these things have doubled pretty much or close to it. And I have to see exactly when he put these on in the morning. He put them on at about 10 a.m., so that was a pretty good time to be getting in. And let's see, there's about 5,000 have traded on this strike today, so more than 2x this volume. So let's hope our friend got out, got a good scoop, and got the heck out of Dodge. We'll check it again. We're going to put these on the to-be-watched category. We'll come back to these pretty soon, listeners, to see May 1st. It's already closing out on May 1st. Isn't that crazy, listeners? The year flying by or perhaps dragging, I guess, depending on your perspective out there. We're going to wrap it up, listeners, with an old offender. Haven't been on the odd block in a little bit. We're going out to YNDX. Yet again, this is YNDX. Their description is just an internet services company. I love the very descriptive descriptions. In case you're wondering, headquartered out of Moscow. So there you go. We get all your finer internet products. Moscow, Russia. Ticker symbol YNDX. Listeners, trading today, let's see, 36.42, up 42 cents. So up about a little north of 1%, about 1.2%. This is the name that's kind of had an interesting year. A year ago, it was trading about not even a buck north of where it is right now. It was trading 37.32. And then it kind of slowly rallied over the course of time to July, got up over 40, and it kind of gave it up a little bit of it, trading about 37.5 out through September. Then it took a bit of a hit in October, got down to about $30, and then it rebounded. It sold up all the way to 48, almost $49 there in mid-February. Then we all know what happened to the world in mid-February. It fell off a cliff, and so did YNDX, down to 28.91 or so. Actually, it's like the low was 27.93 intraday. And then it kind of bounced back up, got up to about 36.70, then sold off again, then right back up to where it is right now, about 36.5. So that's where we find ourselves leading into today. And what did our Eye of Sauron find for us out there? Found more call paper, listeners. Looks like a bit of a theme out here in the odd block today. We had Zynga calls, we had Bed Bath & Beyond calls, and now we're taking it home with YNDX calls to the tune of about 2,000 of the May 38th. So again, near term, these are a little bit more out of the money than our friend out there in Bed Bath & Beyond. Paying a decent amount of juice for these, $1.10. Pretty much that was the offer. They were 85 cents at $1.10. This guy didn't have to go through it to get about 2,000 done, but he did have to lift it. This one up over there on the Philly. These are pre-earnings because they got earnings tomorrow. So a lot of folks kind of loading up on the old school odd block paper. Kind of fun, kind of interesting. Old school, swinging for the fences, call paper. This time in YNDX, Mr. Meatball. So we just had Bed Bath & Beyond, someone gobbling up weeklies. Before that, we had Zynga swinging for the fences up there through the offer in some earnings calls. And now we're rounding it out, Mr. Meatball, with about 2,000 of the YNDX May 38th. Someone's feeling the love for YNDX. Are you feeling the love for this trade, sir?
I mean, I don't really generally trade a lot of Russian search engines, but hey.
You don't? What's wrong with you?
When in Moscow, do as the Mosconians do. Yeah, this is a pretty strong Mosconians, right? Isn't that the correct word?
Muscovites, I believe.
Is it Muscovites?
Yes.
Moscowans?
Moscow. It's definitely not Moscowans.
Wasn't he one of the founders of Cowan Trading, Moscowan?
Yes, that's exactly where it comes from.
Yeah, it's a pretty strong opening trade, a pretty strong vote of confidence. I'll be really interested to see what this does.
I think we have our title for our show, Moscowan Volatility. I love it. Tell that to a Muscovite, see what he says to you if you call him Moscowan to his face. As we keep on rolling, it is Monday. It is time for the strategy block.
It's time to dispense options, wit, wisdom, and education. It's time for the strategy block.
All right, listeners, time for the strategy block. In case you're wondering, we went 3 for 3 in that odd block. We're going to go back to all 3 of those to be watched and see how they perform because they're pretty near term. They're pretty aggressive. We'll see how they fare. But usually this is the time when Uncle Mike holds court with a little bit of options, wit, and or wisdom. He is on assignment. So the greasy meatball ably stepping into the fray. You know, Mr. Meatball, these are times when people's portfolios are going through a little bit of turmoil, a little bit of volatility. Sometimes you may have to adjust. Maybe you have to rebalance what's going on out there. So if I were so inclined to do such a thing right now, Mr. Meatball, what would you tell me?
Yeah, so let's talk about rebalancing because this is something that a lot of retail traders don't do, and they should do. And, we briefly kind of brushed on this last Monday when Mike and I were talking about the RSP, which is the S&P 500 equal weighted index. So you're looking at your SPY position, your S&P 500 position, and, as we, again, brushed upon at the top of the show, you're saying, I made back a good chunk of what I lost. And, you need to always ask yourself how. And so looking across your at the portfolio of the S&P 500, the big note that was out today, our 500, the FMAGAs, account for almost the entirety of the gain in the S&P 500. The spread between the S&P 500 minus FMAGA is still down almost 30%. So what does that mean for you? That means you need to talk with your financial advisor or with your own personal trading about
rebalancing. What does rebalancing mean? Well, that means I was long an equal amount of Exxon and Apple. Well, Exxon got absolutely toasted. Apple's been fine. Do I still want that position? Do I still want to, do I want a position where I'm now long 5 times as much Apple as I am Exxon? And you're saying, well, Mark, who cares? Or why does this matter? Take a look at the history of stocks absolutely tanking. I will recently, there is a Mark, you may be looking at their world headquarters as we speak. There is a company that was a giant proportion of people's gains in 2019. And they happen to make airplanes. And that company took down a giant amount of portfolios. And the reason being is that people failed to rebalance. They did not take dollars as the stock was going up. So one of the things that I think is really interesting to look at, it's, obviously you have to see what fits for you, is a way to take money off the table in the tech names, and you put more money back on the table in energy and industrials and in mining and materials, is to sell out of some tech, take off some NASDAQ, take off some Spider, and buy diamonds, buy RSP, things like that. Believe it or not, if you're looking for diversification and you like trading options, of the indexes you really know what is in them. It's funny. I'll get to this. Most people don't know what's in the Russell 2000. They've heard of the Russell 2000. They don't know what's in it. So, of the indexes that you know what is in them, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which is only 30 stocks, is hands down the most diverse index of the major trading indexes. Its top 2 holdings are United Healthcare and Apple. So you're getting, whereas the S&P 500, its top holdings are Microsoft, Apple, Google, Amazon, and then you throw in Facebook. Johnson & Johnson is in there. So there is a by taking this opportunity with a giant portion of the S&P 500 still at the lows. You're saying, Mark, did I miss out on the lows? You did if all you want to do is own FMAGA. If you want to own a basket of stocks that replicate the U.S. economy, then you have not even remotely missed the opportunity to go along. And there you have it, folks. That is what rebalances in and why rebalancing takes place. And then finally, here's a question.
You broke up a little bit there at the end, Mr. Meatball. Solana and I tell you what, we'll fix you there as we keep on rolling. Let's get some of you guys on the show as well with a little bit of the old mail block.
It's time to take your seat on the All-Star panel as we read your emails, tweets, Facebook messages, website comments, and much more. It's time for the Mail Block.
All right, we're going to get some of your questions in a second. I got Mr. Meatball. Do we have you back there, sir? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. We sound great.
Okay, so you started saying something about the Russell 2000 at the end, and we lost you. What were your final summarization thoughts?
I was going to say is, if you own IWI, do you actually know what's in it? And I'm gonna guess that almost nobody does.
Yeah, if you can name all 2,000 stocks, even 100 in the Russell 2000, then you could probably win some bonus points here. Speaking of bonus points, let's see what we've got in store for you. You guys were pretty hot and heavy on the question we asked you guys at the beginning, actually towards the end of last week, actually. We asked you, everyone was focused on negative crude last week and the impact that was having on a lot of products you guys like to trade in the ETP space, most prominently USO. So we asked you guys, do you think, quite simply, USO, is it going to survive this madness? A lot of people are thinking it's going to join XIV in the old Franken product dustbin of history. So we asked you guys straight up, is it going to be trading still at the end of the year? Yes or no? It came down pretty close. You guys were leaning in favor of yes with about 55% to about 45% for no. Mr. Meatball, you're talking about this at the top of the show. You were saying you weren't liking the stock split. I think people who are looking for the preservation of the product probably like it. You don't like it from a vol perspective and everything else. Where do you come down on this poll? You think USO is still going to be around the end of the year, yes or no?
100%, yeah.
No, 100%. Not even blinking there, not even batting it out.
No. And if this one went down, they would open a new one. It's way too successful to go out of business. And they don't have a lot, and they don't have the same kind of risk. They're completely happy to hold it.
And that was a conversation I had with our buddy Mr. Rhodes out there as well. He made a good point about this as well, which unlike Credit Suisse, who has many other interests and, some of those products out there that perhaps were causing it. Credit Suisse, of course, with TVIX, others, Barclays with XIV. They have other issues perhaps, and there are other things to do, and maybe the risk's not worth it. For the folks who make USO, that's kind of their main business line. So that goes away. That would be problematic for them. So you guys leaning on yes? Sounds like the meatball. Pretty firmly in the yes camp. I voted in there as well. I leaned on the yes as well. All right, we were just talking earlier, Mr. Meatball, about the OEX, a.k.a. the S&P 100. Sounds like Sonic Merlin listening to the show. He said, but it doesn't have a price, though. Yeah, it does. It's still disseminated. It still exists. The ticker is OEX. Just type that into your thing. If you have a hard time remembering that, just type S&P 100, whatever platform it is you're using. The OEX right now at about a 13.17. If you are interested, by the way, listeners, if you're curious, how much paper going up? Meatball touched on it earlier. Was how much is going up in the OEX? By way of comparison, this is as of about 20 minutes ago in the S. We saw almost 650,000 contracts on the tape. The ADV has come in quite a bit. It's still north of 1 million, 1.2 million, and that's in an all-electronic environment. The OEX, by way of comparison, has done 255 contracts today, and the ADV a whopping 323. So it sounds like, Mark, that one guy out in the O pit is pretty busy today. He's doing 255 contracts, pretty active.
You know what? Believe it or not, that's super active for him. They're busy, but it's got a big enough multiplier because it's $1,300 that 500 contracts, 1,000 contracts a day. With the width there's enough edge in there probably for one guy to eke out a decent living. Two, probably not.
If you're that one guy, if you are the DPM out there in OEX, hit me up. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your sordid tale of woe over the past couple of decades. Or maybe, who knows, maybe it's been boon times. We always used to dream on the floor of the SIBO, I could be the one guy. If I could be the one guy making these markets, I can make them so wide and everyone have to come to me and it would be fantastic. This guy's living the dream. 255 contracts at a time. Maybe there's something to be said for that. I would like to find out. Meanwhile, let's find out what else you guys have on the brain. CLEANENRTYS. Interesting handle. Wants to know, hey, I see you've been killing the game. Well, thank you. And wanted to ask you for some advice. If you don't want to respond, no worries, blah, blah, blah. He adds a bunch of other stuff in here. I wanted to ask you if there was something that really gave you the aha moment in stocks. I've been focusing on low float, high volume stocks and resistance. Is there any book you recommend or YouTube channel, two N's in channel, by the way, there, CLEANENRTYS, to follow to further expand my knowledge? I'm not looking for a handout. Do appreciate any input. Thanks, brother, with an A. I'm his brother. Best of luck. I've talked about before what the aha moment for me was in getting into this. It wasn't so much in stocks. It was in the dreaded D word. It was in the derivatives that brought me over to the dark side. It was kind of a bad event. It was, of course, the Nick Leeson blowing up of bearings, which made me realize, there's something to these derivatives things. I probably should figure out what the hell they are. It sounds like you want more of a what is my technical analysis aha moment out here. And I've come out here before on the network many times and said I'm not the biggest fan of technicals. I see a limited use case for them, but it's not exactly been my first case. And I often see them misapplied to things like VIX and other things where technical analysis is a different beast and doesn't really work out there. So I'm not the biggest fan. Books, well, obviously we've got the meatball here. He actually is the author of a few tomes. So perhaps I could recommend a few tomes, perhaps even one that I am on the dust jacket for, Mr. Meatball. Why don't you regale our friend here, Mr. CLEANENRTYS, and anyone else who's interested? What is the name of your book? And I know you're working on another one. Why don't you give us a tease for that one too?
Yeah, so I actually have 2 books. I'm working on a second edition of my current book. So my first book I wrote with Dennis Chen. My second book, Trading Options for Edge, is a lot more of like a how to trade individual spreads, how to build a portfolio. It's much more nuts and bolts of trading. And I'm in the middle of writing a second edition, which is going to have 2 or 3 more chapters and some updates and some fixes in there. But if you next time we do a contest, I've got a couple more of these. I'll send a copy. It's a pretty darn good book. I spent a lot of time working on it. So if you go out, if you want a book that really digs into how to trade options, my Trading Option for Edge book is kind of the only one out there that I found. The other books that I think are great are, the only other 2 books that I've ever really consistently go back to. So I've read a lot of books. There are about 2 or 3 books that I consistently go back to. All right. The first book is Sheldon Natenberg's book.
Say it's got to be Natenberg's got to be one of them.
Yep. Sheldon Natenberg's Trading Option Volatility and Pricing. Then I go to, everyone talks about, the Black Swan book by Nassim Taleb. That is not his best book. His best book is his first one. Why can't I think of it right now? It's Dynamic Hedging. Dynamic Hedging is an incredible book. Way, way better than the other 2.
Yeah, you can't go on a speaking tour and have branded T-shirts around dynamic hedging. That doesn't work, sir.
No, but it's actually really good. It's the first one that really dug into like weighted Vega and things like that. And then I don't know. Do you know Charles Cottle, Mark?
The Risk Doctor?
The Risk Doctor. I gotta give him credit. He wrote a heck of a book. Option Trading: The Hidden Reality. It's a good book.
Yes, I met him a few times. I don't know him that well. I think he's retired to Texas or something.
I would say that of the in order of uniqueness, he's like he's out there. He's up there on that list.
That's saying a lot because there are certainly some unique personalities in the world of options. I got a second, the Taleb. That's old school. Not Taleb, excuse me, the Natenberg. Old school is not exactly the most scintillating of reading, but if you want a hardcore options tome, it's old. It's been updated a few times, but it's still, the cores still apply. A call is still a call. A put is still a put. Skew is still skew. There's a reason that was the tome they handed everybody when you walked on the floor of the SEBA. Here, go home and read this, kid. And if you're touching on options, probably want to go home and read that one as well. Check out the old Option Traders Hedge Fund as well. I like the cover is fantastic. It's actually probably some of the most well-written blurbs I've ever seen about a tome out there. So go check those out. As we check out what's going on for the rest of the week, it's time to go around the block.
It's time to tell you what we'll be watching on our trading screens until the next episode. It's time for Around the Block.
All right, everybody. Welcome to Around the Block. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, it is earnings season in full effect. If you're going to pay attention any week, this is the week to pay attention. Let me hit some of the big names really quick. AMAT today, tomorrow Southwest, Alphabet, the Bucks, a.k.a. Starbucks, Merck and Pfizer and Caterpillar Wednesday, Boeing, GE, Blue Apron, Tesla, Microsoft, Facebook, eBay, Qualcomm. Thursday, American Airlines, Twitter, McDonald's, Six Flags, Amazon, Apple, United Airlines, Friday, Exxon, Chevron, Honeywell, and Philips. If you can't find something you like in there, you got iRobot on Tuesday, AMD, we're leaving a bunch off. 3M, UPS, you name it, Blue Apron, I mentioned them earlier, Anthem, Spotify, Boeing, Twitter, we said them before, Gilead, everyone's been looking at them. What the heck's up with them? We'll pay attention to them on Thursday. So if there's something in here you can find, listeners, that will float your boat. At the very least, interest you. New reports. I'm just getting word from our producer. New reports hitting the website as we speak. theoptionsinsider.com is the place to go for your earnings move results reports and season reports and all that good stuff. Mr. Meatball, looking ahead for the rest of this week, sir, what are you focusing on until we can gather here together on Thursday?
Some earnings and some more earnings. I'm also going to watch oil. I want people to understand, once the reverse split happens, I'm going to be really excited about it because vol's so high, there's going to be a ton of juice. I'm going to make a lot of money trading USO. What I really mean is that I wish that it would already have been reverse split when it did, in fact, blow out, because I wouldn't be worried about getting stuck in a position into a roach trap, a roach hotel of a trade in USO. There's just a lot of money to be made trading that as an equity. So that one. And Mark, I pulled out my copy of Option Trading: The Hidden Reality. You'll like this. I had Charles sign it, and it says to Mark, it's all in the Vega, dude. Signed, Charles. Just a really funny. I had not talked to him in about 5 years. Just a really funny little signature. So, I think that this is going to be about earnings, and where do we go from here? Big question.
I like that's a good signature. It's all in the Vega, dude. I like that. About sums it up from what I've seen and heard out there. Interesting stuff. Check out his book. Maybe you'll be intrigued. All those books we broke down for you out there. And well, more to come on USO and everything else. I think that split is coming up maybe tomorrow. I think I'll check my dates, but it's coming up soon. So stay tuned for that. And you know what else is coming up soon here on the network is going to be, if you're listening live, probably going to get some good stuff like Boot Camp. And then we'll be back in a little bit after about exactly an hour. Break down all the craziness. A lot of you starting to hit us up about the crypto stuff, so you're starting to discover what's going on out in the crypto space. If you want to hear the source, we're pretty much the only ones talking about the derivative side of it. So talk the volatility, the skew, all that good stuff, the OI, and not just Bitcoin, but a bunch of other stuff too, ETH and everything else. Join us for the crypto rundown in exactly an hour. Just hit next on wherever you're listening to this. And before we go, Mr. Meatball, if folks are intrigued, they want to learn more, they want to get a MAGA hat or an F-MAGA hat, maybe they want to get a signed book of their very own, of yours, not Charles. And maybe you can sign Charles's too. I'm not sure how you'd feel about that, but you can sign your own. Where should you go? What should they do? I agree with you, sir. It should definitely be optionpit.com. That is where they should go to learn more. And we'll see you guys back here in a little bit for the crypto rundown. Then we'll be back again tomorrow for the advisor's option. Later on this week for Options Playbook Radio and all the other fun stuff. Then back again on Thursday for more of the Option Block.
The Option Block is brought to you by TradeStation. TradeStation has been giving options traders an edge for over 20 years. Their suite of simple yet powerful analysis tools and lightning-fast order execution can be accessed as an app on your phone, web browser, or computer. Education is in TradeStation's DNA, offering help for traders of all levels. And now, TradeStation is commission-free for equities and options trades. For more information, visit tradestation.com/optionsinsider. You're listening to the Options Insider Radio Network, the home of the Options Podcast. For more quality options programs, visit theoptionsinsider.com or search for Options Insider Radio Network in your podcast provider of choice. Listeners can also access all of our programming through our mobile app available in the iTunes and Google Play stores. Select programs are also available via live stream at mixlr.com/options-insider. That's mixlr.com/options-insider. Don't forget to follow along with your favorite programs and submit your own questions for the hosts at twitter.com/options, stocktwits.com/options, facebook.com/theoptionsinsider, or via questions at theoptionsinsider.com.